My rebellion started at the age of 13. For 10 years, I battled addiction to drugs like cocaine and pills, such as opiates and Xanax. I've had multiple friends die from overdoses and murders over drugs, one of which was like a sister to me. After running off to Idaho, 2 unhealthy relationships where I was abused, introduced to drugs such as meth, and ended up homeless, I had hit rock bottom. I tried to check into a women's shelter and asked for a cigarette from a man there. He tried to touch me, so I argued with him. I don't know what happened next, but I woke up at the bottom of a hill bleeding from my head. All this time, my parents had been praying and doing everything they could to help me out of this darkness. But I tried to call my mom back home. She had had enough and put her foot down and told me I needed to figure this out. I met my son's father shortly after. Before I got pregnant, we used together, and he too was leading to a life of nowhere. So I knew I needed to get away. By this time, I'm fully dependent on drugs, high every day, but somehow, by the grace of God, I ended up getting government assistance to pay for my rehab, and I traveled over 500 miles to get there. I was walking outside soon after and came up to a workout post that was shaped into a cross. It felt like somebody had shoved me down to my knees. Of course, the enemy was there with me, and I landed into a ton of thorns, trying to get me off of my knees, but down I stayed. I cried out to him, "I give you my life. I can't do this anymore." Right then, it felt like hundreds of pounds of guilt and shame coming off my shoulders. He wrapped his arms around me and just held tight. I ran inside to call my dad to tell him the big news. Getting off the phone excited, I also almost didn't believe it. I told God, if that was really you, I need you to give me a sign, and a big one. I walked back outside, I looked up to him, and there was a white dove that disappeared into the night sky. I spent the next 3.5 years following God's guidance. God told me the next man I dated would be my husband, and our first kiss would be on her wedding day. I prayed for specific qualities every day that God put on my heart. I not only needed a husband, but a father for my son. Rocky Point Mission Trip 2015, I met Rodell Razor. A few months later, we started dating. On our second date, he sat me down and said, "I know this is crazy, but God told me not to kiss until my wedding day." Wow, I knew this was my husband. We got married April 9th, 2016. I was blessed with a husband and his son named Crew. Connor was blessed with a dad and a little brother. God's blessing and favor continues to show up in our lives through our faithfulness and obedience to Him.